Hi, Facebook family. I want to come on really quickly and talk about something that I have been dealing with for the last few weeks with a lot of clientele. And the subject is divorce. Divorce and forgiveness. How to come apart from the relationship when you know that it's not going to be good for you guys to stay together. But also in that transition period that leads up to divorce, whether you should be thinking about going back, whether you should fight for the marriage, and like all the little nuances in between. So I will tell you, in all the years that I have been coaching, and since I wrote the book, which is about 8 or 9 years ago, and I would say that I've been working with divorcing couples now for a couple of decades. All right, my divorce was well over 20 something years ago. And I have found every single solitary couple is completely different, and there is no single answer for anyone. Should they divorce? Should they not divorce? I think it's so every relationship is so unique, and the situations are so unique, and the people are so unique. How could you even possibly, figure that out? I mean, I've seen marriages come together after 3 years of divorce. Sometimes when we go through the process of divorce, we need to pull away to the point where we want to create a case against the other person. We want to hate them. I see that all the time. And this is something that I teach. We need to stay in love. We don't have to love them the same way we did as a spouse, but we need to stay loving towards them, especially if we share, our children together, and we have a family unit that we have to protect. So how do we pull apart from that? How do we say, okay, it's over? If we still want to be in, and guess what? 80% of divorce is single-sided, meaning only one person really wants it, which means that there are a lot of people out there suffering, a lot of people out there who really don't want to leave their marriage, who really want to work on it, and where one person is saying, no, that's not what I want. 20% obviously is, there two people are saying, yes, I want out. Now, that doesn't mean that in the 80% people are fighting. That sometimes people are just saying, okay, you don't want me anymore. I'm going to get out. I don't want you. I know for myself, if somebody doesn't want to be with me and they have legitimate reasons, I want out. I don't, especially if they're not attracted to you anymore, or, your lives come apart, or you grow apart. You're different people after 5, 10 years. And so why would you want to be staying with somebody who doesn't really love you all the way? That's my mentality. And when I coach someone, it's always different. We have to find out where each person is at to just figure out if there's something that can be blended back together. But in every circumstance, irrespective of whether someone cheated or stole or whatever, it doesn't matter, abusive, alcoholism, gambling, it doesn't, any of that, put all of that aside. There's one thing that would need to be common coming through the process, and that would be we take personal responsibility for whatever we bring to the table, okay, and when we bring into the relationship. And sometimes that means, folks, that we're loving too much, that we're enabling somebody to do things to us. Maybe we didn't make a good choice marrying in the first place. That's still our responsibility. So we don't have to lay fault and blame to do this. It could just be like a wake-up call. So we take the onus off the other person and we say, okay, this person cheated on me because, and then we listen to those reasons, and we listen with a clear mind. It might hurt, but we still want to know truth, because ultimately, if we are a family unit, we need to be able to look at that person for the rest of our lives, at least as long as our children are alive, right? I mean, God help us, we want to outlive our children. So the point of this whole thing is, no matter what the other person did, can you come through it and forgive? Yes. Forgiveness is always, there's no reason never not to forgive, ever. Okay, there's just unwillingness. But there's always the reason for yourself. And I actually have a passage about that I'd love to read to you real quick that I have from my mini book of Mighty Mantras. It's on page 116. And it is, we should choose forgiveness for our own peace of mind and for all the people in our lives who deserve to have us whole, at full strength, and healed. Forgiveness is a gift we give to ourselves, okay, which everyone we love will also receive. Acknowledge and then repeat, and this is the mantra, how can I ever be the best I can be if I forever believe that someone has already gotten the best of me? So that means that if you want to hate someone forever, then you are beholden to them forever, aren't you? you're locked in with the anger and hatred, which means that it's taking up space in your heart that you could be using for some way worthwhile things, okay? Some people think they can do both. They can hate somebody and tear them out of their life and still go on to love and be whole and healthy and everything else. Well, I have seen in my practice that people think that they're okay. But let me just tell you what negative energy can do. We know this now, that the stress that's created by those negative emotions can create discomfort and disease in the body. It can create symptoms within us, okay? It could be horrendously difficult for our children. Oh my gosh, what we put our children through. When we go through a divorce, we don't even get this much of it. We think their lives are going on the same. We're taking care of their needs. We're paying for stuff, blah, blah, blah. But we don't recognize their lives being ripped apart. It's our lives we think we're being ripped apart. My wake-up call came one night when I was in my daughter's bedroom. She was only 4 years old, and I went to go make sure she was okay and tuck her in. I was feeling lonely that night, and, it was during my separation, and I loved having somebody in bed next to me. I was in my early 30s, and so that was a big deal for me. It was a big jolt to be alone. And when I walked into my daughter's room and I saw her hugging her teddy bear, sleeping, and I realized she's always been in that bed alone. She's never had anybody there. By the way, that's my love drinking water, in case you're wondering what that weird noise is. So when I saw that she was alone, I was like, well, I have to be, she's a child and she can do it. I can do it, right? And then I realized, I flipped it on myself, and I realized the pain that she must feel, the loneliness, the fear, that her parents aren't together. She had to listen to fighting. She had to go through the process of all my emotions. We're all attached, right? So the idea of trying to get through the process in the most brave way became my function and my goal. My motive was for her and her brother to come through the process. But then to flip it too, I wanted to make sure that their father came through the process okay, because after all, he's affecting them as well. They're affected by his moods and the condition he's in. So there was so many reasons to stay forgiving and loving, even though I was leading towards divorce. So people ask me when they come to me, they give me their situation, when they come as a couple, and they say, the question is, can this marriage be saved? And if we are all able to take responsibility for our participation, and we were all able to come to a loving and forgiving stance, doesn't mean that we have to stay married, doesn't mean that we have to stay in the relationship, doesn't mean we have to still deal with the issues, because we're not talking about, if we're talking about forgiving the person, we're not talking about accepting bad behavior, if you know what I mean. So we don't want anything in the marriage that would affect us or hurt us long term. We don't want infidelity if that's our boundaries. We don't want gambling, alcoholism, abuse of any kind, even verbal abuse, whatever. If those are our boundaries, we would say no to all that. So that would have to change. But irrespective of behavior, that love the person, the soul that you connected with and married, the soul that you came together with to have your children. It's very important to take that step and do that. And then not thinking about down the road, just thinking about right now in the state of being you're in and moving towards that. And then what will happen is there's a lighter load on the relationship. So even if you are going to go towards divorce, at the minimum, you're going to be the best co-parents in the world. Okay? Can you go back together at that point? I have seen couples come back from horrendous stuff, from severe infidelity, from anger, screaming, whatever, from alcoholism and drug addiction. I have seen couples come back together after everything was healed, after all the situations were taken care of, after we eliminated all those negative, situations, and the people take responsibility for their own lives. They do their own healing work, and then guess what? Whether it's 6 months, a year, usually is a lot more than 6 months, trust me. And if there's nothing going on bad in the marriage, 6 months is fine. But when there's some real big issues, then it takes a lot longer than that. But what we're talking, a year or so later, realizing that they did love each other, that they grew to resent one another, that maybe there were situations that going on that they never really addressed, and it got built up, and they were able to come back together. But that doesn't always happen. I see more of the scenario where people are divorcing, and you guys see this too. But does that mean because 80% of the divorces are generated by one person, does that mean that the other person always gets slaughtered in the relationship, always gets the bad end of the deal? I have seen it where the person who was left rose up and actually went on to do amazing things, found a new love, got a beautiful life together. I mean, we're talking really great partners, and they did the healing work. They were able to adjust to their new stature as a single person, which I like to call Omni, which Omni is like all powerful. So you can be Omni, which is single and separate, but you're still powerful, right? You don't have to be a couple to be powerful. But I've seen them do better than the people who initiated the divorce, and I'll tell you why. Sometimes people who initiate a divorce are unhappy with themselves, and they decide, they think it's their partner that's making them leave, or making them not want to stay, or making them feel the way they do about their life, unhappiness or whatever. And they blame the other person. They go for their divorce, and 2 years later, they're in the same boat. They meet another person who makes them feel even more miserable, or whatever. That doesn't always happen, but I'm saying in some circumstances, I see this. So when we leave a marriage, it better be for really good reasons. It better not be just because we're unhappy. It better be because the other person is in, you could never jive with them, okay? It has to be because somebody's doing harm to you. It has to be because, you know, maybe you just grew so far apart and you have nothing in common. You're not attracted to one another anymore. There's a lot of situations there. I can see it. Most of the time, though, it's easy. It's easy when one person is saying, I'm out, I have somebody else, I don't want to be married anymore, I'm gone. Okay, yeah, that's pretty clear cut. But even when it's that clear cut, a person who is being divorced, being told I'm by their spouse, I'm in love with someone else, they still can't cut that cord. They still can't see themselves as single. They still can't see themselves not married to that person. They still think there may be a chance. And this is what I wanted to talk about today, because I had put out a post about it, and I got all different responses where some people will say, hey, somebody cheated on me, I'm out, okay? And another person will say, well, it depends. It depends on the situation. How many years were they together? You know, what the person is willing to end the relationship and come back in and do the work and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter what the other person's willing to do. In any given moment, when you're in a situation that you need to deal with, it has to be you and your higher power, if it's God or whoever, you and your own soul, and following the steps and guidance that you are being given, that you want to rise up to be your best self. And you want to say, I want to be in the best life situation right now. I want to be in the best relationship I can possibly have. I do not want to settle just because I'm scared or fearful. I want what is due me. I want to get exactly what I give. I am willing to give out and be the best I can be and give the best relationship and give love unconditionally. So I automatically know I'm worthy of getting that back. Now, if you were to do that and you were to ask for pure truth in the relationship to come through, you might be led and guided in that moment to whether you should be going back together, whether there's that opportunity, or whether you're supposed to be going on your own. Either way, you're still going to be strong because you are deciding that you're strong alone, single and separate within your own soul and your own God. That's what we need to do in every circumstance, most especially through a divorce process. No matter how much we think someone hurt us, sometimes that other person is done us a favor. Because if they are not capable of fidelity, if they're not capable of loving us, if they're not attracted to us anymore, if they don't want to be in the marriage and they're unhappy and blah, 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 then we're living a lie with them as husband and wife, right? Or as man and woman and woman, depending on, you know, your preference. So we want to know absolute truth because ultimately we want a beautiful relationship. Unless, of course, some people will want a monetary relationship. That happens a lot. They want what's comfortable. They want to make sure they're okay for the kids. Whatever is your choice and preference, as long as two people are okay with it, there is nobody should be judging anybody for what they're willing to do and what they're willing to have and what they're willing to share with another person. So the person who is left, let's go back, the person who is being left by somebody else, you need to address yourself. What participation did you have in this relationship? Not to lay fault or blame, just to see. Ask for truth about why it's ending if you need to know. You don't need to ask the other person. You probably not get a right answer anyway. You probably not get a truthful answer, especially if they've already been lying to you. Ask it of your higher knowing and wait for an answer, okay? Deal with your pain. Allow yourself to feel it. Cry if you have to. It's especially good if you get yourself near water, near the beach. That's where I did my healing with every relationship. Sorry, right on the beach. See, water. It just got, Okay, I'm good. So when we're healing, going through the process of healing, we want to be connected with the earth as much as we can. The earth is a lot more powerful than we are, but made of the same nutrients. So it's supercharging us as we're going through the process. We have to be willing to get through the pain. Picture yourself, your heart, as having a sword go through it. Okay, that's what it feels like sometimes to break up, what it feels like to be told I'm in love with somebody else, what it feels like to say I don't want you anymore, I'm not attracted to you. Picture, though, that if you're still in pain all the time, it's like that sword is in twisting. It's twisting in there every single time something happens, every time you hear from them, see them, or think about them. What you need to do when you're ready to move on, or even if you're not ready to move on, okay, if you're brave enough, you imagine that sword, okay, as going right through. Let the sword pass through. Because at that point when it's gone, then that wound can start to heal. And put your hand on your chest after you allow it to go through, and you imagine that wound already starting to close up. Okay, you may be scarred, it may take a little while longer, but you are now in the process of healing and rising. Okay, and when you heal and rise, you're going to know that you're going to walk into and step into your best life no matter what the other person decides to do. You can't want someone who doesn't want you. That's unproductive. You can't fight for love. Fighting for love is like, what's that? I don't even know what to call that. A faux pas, a conundrum. I don't know. You don't fight for love. Okay, you love, love, and love. And then if the person is reciprocating it in a marriage, you'll come together. And if not, they're going to go your way. You're still going to be surrounded by love. You're still going to live. You're still going to attract more of it. So it all behooves you to keep doing that. I'm not saying that you should lay down in the dirt and let somebody walk all over you. I'm saying to love is different than accepting things that you don't want to accept in your life. To love means that you love the person in the shape they're in, even if they've hurt you, okay? And you accept that they're human and frail, and there's a reason why they did what they did. Whatever that reason is, you can ask, you can find out, you can be led. You can decide that you had a participation in that, even if it was unknowing, even if it was you enabling them to do what they did. Okay, which is us loving too much. Well, that's a thing. So move forward with the idea that no matter what goes on with that other person, you're still going to be okay. You're still going to be able to have the best life that you could possibly live in, the best persona, the most healed. You just keep saying that to yourself over and over and over again. Do it for the sake of your children. If you can't do it for yourself at first, do it for the sake of your family unit. Because no matter what, if you're parents, you have to co-parent with this person for the rest of your life. Love and forgive yourself for whatever you think you did. Because guess what? Just because one person doesn't want you anymore, so what? They could have done you a favor, okay? Because there's somebody else, I'm sure, if you're willing and wanting it, who will come in and give you exactly what you give back. That's the way it works. So sometimes we'll stay in a marriage or stay in a relationship that sucks just because we made a commitment. And the other person maybe leaves us and we're like, whoa, maybe a year later, I would have never left. And now I have the opportunity to be really, really happy on my own, or potentially when I'm ready with somebody else. So think about that. Think about that this is not an ending. This is a new beginning. Think about staying in your own truth and your own love and your own power. And if that path is supposed to come together again in that marriage, it will happen. To be honest, two souls who are meant to be together, there's no way to take them apart. When they're ready to come together, they'll come together with a bang. When they stay apart for whatever reason, you can obviously feel that too. There's a deficit there. Nobody likes to feel that deficit. Sometimes they try to fill that hole really quick with somebody else. Doesn't work. Doesn't really work. I've seen it fail many, many, many times. Too many times to think that it could work. It's just a tiny percentage. So in the meantime, be free with yourself. Allow yourself to just take care of who you are. Take care of your family, your children. Take care of your own future, your career, whatever it is that you need to do. Allow that person space who's left you. Let them do what they need to do. Because in bottom line, you know your truth is with the most amazing person, okay? Or the most amazing relationship that you can possibly have, and in the time frame that you desire. Someone might be leaving you, but it could be your best life that's coming next for you, okay? I hope that helped. There's a lot of people going through breakups right now, so I'm hoping that you can use this as a guide. And if you have any further questions, please reach out. I'm willing to help you anytime. And listen, by the way, my mini book of mighty mantras is a really good tool during this process. It's what I used during my divorce. But on the other side of that, I have the 10 Commandments of Divorce, which I wrote. Both are available on Amazon. And the 10 Commandments of Divorce has helped, from what I've been told, many people to really see the light and to come into their own strength and power. And that's what you really need right now if you're in pain and you're clinging on to something that you know is really not going to work. There's a part of you that knows, or there's a part of you that refuses to see. The 10 Commandments of Divorce will help you rise in the power so that it doesn't matter to you what the other person's doing. It only matters to you what you're doing, so that you're going to be moving into your best day, your best week, month, year, whatever that is. Okay? Let me just see if anybody has any questions before I go. We have a lot of people who have come on, but I don't see any questions. So listen, love to everybody, and give me, reach out if you need me or if you have to answer any questions, and love to all of you. Bye-bye.